Okay, so we're ready for part two here where we're going to scaffold out our game page. So what we're going to need to do first is create a game HTML file, and then we'll also go ahead and create our game CSS file. So in game, we can do kind of the same thing we did with our index one, use this emit abbreviation to get scaffolding, and then we can call this quick quiz, and then just call this play, I guess, something like that. All right, so we've got that index HTML or the game HTML file created. Now if we click on our play button, we should be taken to this blank screen, which is good. That's what we want. So in here, every one of our pages is gonna be inside of a container, and then we'll have an ID of game, and then a class of justify center and flex column. So these are two of the ones that we saw in the last one as well. And then just inside of here, I'm going to have an H2, and this is going to be our question. So what is the answer to this question? And this will also have, since we're going to need to reference this, just want to give this an ID of question. So let's go ahead and go to our play screen, and you'll see that we've got it, and it's showing our H2, but it doesn't have that background of the container, and it's not centering our content. That's because we didn't include our app CSS. So we're going to include the app CSS here. Oh, if I could type it right, app CSS, and now it looks a little bit more of what we expect. Now we will have enough styling in here for the game page itself that we're actually going to create and include our game CSS as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that while I'm thinking about it. So this is going to include the game CSS. Okay, so we've got our question up here, and now we're going to need 4 different answer choices. So what I'm going to do, and this will become a little bit more apparent as we style it, I'm going to start with a class of choice container. Now this is going to be the overall container for our choice. Obviously, pretty self-explanatory. And then inside of that, we're going to have a p tag with a class of choice prefix, and the prefix is basically going to be A, B, C, or D. All right, so this first one's going to be A, and we're also going to have a p tag with a class of choice text. So this is going to be choice 1. So look at this. It should show up here really tiny, actually, which is fine. We'll come back and style that. And we're going to need 4 different ones of this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Just copy and pasting that. So this will be choice 2, and it'll be B, and then we'll have C, and choice 3, and then D will be choice 4. So now if you save this, this is the overall layout for our choices. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and style this stuff since we already have it all laid out. So we're going to start with our choice container, and we want this to be a display of flex. Again, we're going to set some margin on the bottom between the different answer choices, which will be 0.5 rem. We want this to take up the entire width, so we're going to make this width of 100%. The font size will be 1.8 rem. And then we're going to give it a border, so a 0.1 rem solid, and then we'll use an RGB here so that we can do some transparency in the end. So this is going to be 86, 165, 235, and then an opacity of 0.25. So it'll just make it a really subtle color for us. And then the last thing is the background color will be white. So you can see it's got the background color white. It's got the border. It doesn't have any padding or anything. So the way we're going to do this is these individual items inside of here will have their own padding. And this is so that if you look at this, notice that the blue color fills up the entire box here. So this is why we're going to have this inner element at its own padding instead of padding on the container itself. Hope that makes sense. So to do that, we're going to do our choice prefix, and we're going to say padding is 1.5 rem on top and bottom, and then 2.5 rem on the sides. And then our background color is going to be our blue color. So 56A, 5EB. I think that's right. And we'll set the color of that text to white. So this should be looking a lot better here. So those are looking good. Now we need to do our choice text. And we just really want to do some padding on here. So we'll do 1.5 rem. If I spell it correctly. All right. So that's looking pretty good. The only thing we're missing here is the hover state. And the hover state is going to be basically exactly what we did with our buttons. So we're going to do choice container and then hover, and then we're going to say cursor pointer. We'll do, and I'm just going to copy these in because we've used them before. So I can actually grab it from our app CSS, grab the hover stuff, copy it over, paste it in. And then this should look pretty good, right? You can see those answer choices with a nice little hover effect. So just kind of a side note, if we were using something like Sass, we could reuse this little piece of code here to create a mix-in Sass so that we could reuse it instead of just copying and pasting the code over to different parts of our application here. So we're not doing that. So this is kind of where we are. We could do give each of these things so an extra class, and then add the hover state like honestly a hover class maybe or something like that. But this is what we got for now, which I think is fine because we're only going to use that in those two places, which is good. So we've got our game page created and styled with obviously dummy content. In the next video, we're going to go and load all of our choices from an array of questions and then handle moving through questions as the user tries to answer them. So that's going to do it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.